ma'am. Well, let's start our conversation off there. You obviously have all of the information. You're big in the community,
Yeah.
librarian, archivist, and I also saw you study. Is it a study of genealogy?
Yes,
I, I
I'm a genealogy librarian. I did that for almost like well over 10 years because I also worked at NC State in the special collections department,
right.
NC State University, and did all types of research, genealogy, local history, just all types of any kind of history, any kind of family genealogy you could think of. I've done it. And so I'm really a proponent of family and history and ancestral
Mm,
knowledge that I could, support anyone and really just anyone across the board, but especially those in the Black community.
I love that. So how did you get into genealogy? Because that's not something you hear every day.
Exactly. So since I am a librarian, I happen to be it wasn't something that I did before I became a librarian, but I received my library science degree from North Carolina Central University.
I
Go
love
Eagles.
it. I love it. I love it.
and and so once I received that degree, I was already working at NC State University in special collections, as I had mentioned. And so my first, and that was as a support role,
Mhm.
a like a junior archivist or something. So my first professional role as a librarian and as an archivist was with Wake County Public Libraries in Raleigh, North Carolina, at the Olivia Rainey Local History Library. And that library not only covers local history, but it also covers helps people, helps the community, helps the patrons who come in who want to do research on their families. And so I started helping people doing their family research at the Olivia Rainey Local History Library. So that's how I got started in it.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm,
So have you dug deep into your family history and found out a lot of things
mhm.
that were beneficial?
I have.
I'm
I
gonna have to
have.
try that. I'm gonna have to try that. I like
You
that.
are. And if you need some help, just let me know. And of
Absolutely.
course, they are always willing to help at the state library as well as any local history library. Wake County is the Olivia Rainey local history library in Raleigh, but you're in Durham, so I can guarantee you that the Durham Public Library has resources to be able to get you what you need. Just even you don't even have to be from North Carolina. You can be from, where are you from?
I'm from North Carolina, from Kinston, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. So, they could definitely your records and actually the state archives would probably be a good place for you to start as well,
Okay,
with the
perfect.
research. Mhm.
That's perfect. I find out a lot of new stuff about my family almost, at least 3 or 4 times a year. And it's like, okay, I'm still learning about my lineage. Like I need to, dig a little deep into that.
Mhm. And when
Wow.
you're digging a little deeper, what we fail to realize is that we need to be documenting this, right?
Mm,
Not only documenting the research, the information that you find, but also document where you found it, right? Like
absolutely.
that's important because you're going to have to source it back to something because somebody's going to say, "Oh, you just made that up." But you want to be able
Hmm.
to say, "Bam, look, on this day and this, my family was in the county record and it said this and this is the source."
Hmm.
Because it's funny because my kids always say, I'll just say something, whatever, and they'll say source because I've always beat that
Now
into
cite your
their head.
sources. Yeah, you
You got to
do.
cite those sources.
Yeah, you
Exactly.
do.
Uh-huh.
So let's get into the book. The Ashe Brothers. Your debut picture book. I
Hmm.
love it. I think I read the book maybe 5 times now. And it's really good. And I've noticed a lot of, children's books have always been very informative, very, very animated. But I'm 26, so I go back to the days where the Judy Bloom books and things like that. So
Hmm.
I I like how you were very engaging in this picture book. How did you, where did you get this inspiration from, to kind of start this book?
Oh, that's a very good question. Let me tell you. So I am a sports fanatic.
Oh,
If
I
I
love
could
it.
write, if I could write about anything all day long, it would be sports, right? Like I love every sport you could name. Like even though I don't play golf, I like the highlights of golf. Like I love that Tiger Woods era of just but history and sports are like my first
Go
loves. They
hand in
just
hand.
go
I love
hand in
it.
hand. So that's how you get the Ashe Brothers. So and and this is probably not a good thing, but I love TV as well. I'm always watching TV, but that's a lot of that is where I get my source materials.
Mhm.
So one day I'm watching, of course, ESPN, which is sports. Of course, I love sports, and I see this TV show it comes on and it's like 30 for 30. I don't know if you know 30 for 30.
I
Of
do.
course
I
you
do.
do. And so all of a sudden I see this gentleman and he's talking about his brother is Arthur Ashe. I said, his brother's Arthur Ashe? And it's Johnnie Ashe telling about the history of how him and his brother started playing tennis and what that meant to him. And when I saw it in his eyes, I thought, he's so compassionate. First of all, I didn't even know Arthur Ashe had a brother. How about let's start there?
I didn't either. I didn't either. Never did. That was news to me.
Me too. I said, Arthur Ashe had a brother? Never even would have crossed my mind, right? Secondly, it was he had a first it was he had a brother, and secondly, his brother was still alive. I thought, wow, that's amazing because Johnnie Ashe is 5 years younger than Arthur Ashe.
Okay.
And so he's still alive to this day. And so I thought, oh, that must be an old recording. He's not still alive, but he is still alive. I met him last year in Virginia, in
Wow.
Richmond.
That's a blessing.
And
Wow.
just amazing human being. And I see that where they got that compassion and that passion and that really basically the activism. They got it from their situation that they were in and how they were brought up, basically. They were brought up in Richmond, segregated Richmond, Virginia in the 40s and 50s. They had to, struggle for everything, but they also lived in a community, Brookfield Park, that they lived in, which was all Black. So it was like the Mecca for them. And their father ended up being, well, not ended up, he was the security guard for the park. And guess what was like feet away from their house because they lived on the grounds. Because as the security guard, they were able to live on the grounds because that was part of the deal that that their father had. But feet away from their house is the tennis courts. Not to mention Brookfield Park has basketball and football, and they have their own swimming pool because, of course, guess what? It's the largest segregated Black playground in Richmond at that time. So
Wow.
everybody who was Black came to on that side of town. They came to Brookfield Park, but so they had the mecca of all these activities and sports and everything like that. But the thing that Arthur gravitated to was the tennis, right? And so, of course, who else are you going to play with all the time besides your little brother,
Right.
right? So when I saw the interview on 30 for 30 and I saw that how compassionate Johnnie was talking about his brother, I just felt like I needed to write that story. Not that it was just any old story, that Arthur Ashe became the first Black man to win a major championship, and that was the US Open. But how did he get to do that? He was able to do that because of Johnnie, not just because they played tennis together, not because that was his brother, but because Johnnie sacrificed his life to have Arthur become the first Black man to win a major championship. And when I say sacrificed his life, literally sacrificed his life, because if Johnnie had not, let me just give you like a little synopsis of this. So Arthur goes off to UCLA to play tennis. He gets a scholarship at UCLA in California. Johnnie, when he graduates high school, he goes to the Marines, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you backstory on that in a minute, but he goes to the Marines. So during that time, during 1966, when Johnnie goes in, the Vietnam War is going on, right? And so he does his first tour. Johnnie does his first tour. So at that time, they only allowed for one brother to be, or one male to in the family to be in active military service in the war at one time.
Right.
And so in 67, going on, 67, Johnnie's done with his tour, but he knows that if he comes back, guess who has to go to war now? And that's Arthur. Arthur's going to have to go to war. So he says, you know what? I'm going to do a second tour because I know my brother, through all these years and all these struggles and all these sacrifices and what he's given to the game of tennis, I'm going to do a second tour for my brother so he doesn't have to. And he does that second tour. And then Arthur goes off, and Arthur becomes the first Black man to win the US Open.
Well, can you talk about, you talked about the sacrifices that Johnnie made. Can you, like, in your opinion, and in your experience, and just writing the book, talk about like how much it means, how necessary it is for us, especially as a Black community, to have siblings or family members that will make those sacrifices for us when we are in those positions to succeed.
Yeah. I think it's just innate inside of us. Like if you ever go on YouTube, or if you look up Johnnie Ashe talking about Arthur Ashe or Arthur Ashe, you'll see, and this story is a fairly new story. Like no one knew about Johnnie's sacrifice for Johnnie, maybe about 10 years ago or so.
Wow.
Arthur didn't even know for a long time what Johnnie did for him, because it was just innate inside of Johnnie to do. That's how they grew up, sacrificing for each other. Because guess what? When you're in a situation where you're being segregated against, where you're being demeaned, where you feel like you are invisible, like that community, our communities need to pick up the slack and surround us with that love and caring and support to elevate us to the next level. And that's what we need to do for each other. And that's what we should do for each other. So the reason why I wrote this story is for several reasons. Yes, I love tennis, of course. I love Arthur, of course. And I love the brotherly love that Arthur and Johnnie show each other throughout life, while Arthur was still alive. Arthur is no longer alive, but Johnnie is. But I wanted siblings, I wanted communities, I wanted people to know this story, to be able to say, I have that same light inside of me. I have that same gift inside of me, that I don't have to do anything on a grand scale. And as my favorite quote from Arthur Ashe is, and this will be I will live and die by this quote. And the quote is, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And that's what Arthur Ashe said. And guess what? That's what he was taught. And that's what Johnnie was taught. And guess what? That's what they did. Johnnie didn't go out and try to start a whatever to show his brother that he loved him. He started where he was. He did he used what he had. And that was his military service and his love for his brother, to say, I'm going to gift him this opportunity to be able to reach his goal, however he can do this. But that's what I have inside of me. And I have to start with me. It started with Johnnie giving that gift to Arthur. He didn't have to do that, but he knew he loved him so much that was his gift. That was a gift.
Yeah.
And I know we all have that inside of us. Like, if you came and you asked me if I could help you write a children's book or whatever, I would be like, I'm going to start with what I have to be able to give you what you need so you can elevate yourself to the next level. All of us have that. And I wanted young readers to be able to know that they have that gift inside of them.
Wow. I love that. And honestly, I asked that question because you don't really see that every day. You see a lot of, and I call them sibling rivalries. You see them, but they're in a very toxic way, or it's not in an uplifting way. And I think a lot of times, especially for young Black kids, we may need that validation at home, and we go out and seek it in the world, and then that's where the worldly things, begin to get to us. Excuse me. And I had to ask you that question because I felt like that was a very deep meaning.
It is. It
So,
is.
so Algonquin Tennis Club, it's no longer in Durham, correct? It's okay. I didn't think so. I actually went looking for it and I couldn't find it. So
Yeah.
So did you train with Arthur Ashe, or did you just see him in passing at the I understand that he trained at the facility.
I'm not from North Carolina.
Okay, got you.
I just know of Arthur Ashe going back, looking through the history, right? Like, I mean, I just love, like, just like, I'm an archivist and I'm a librarian, and I'll Google anything, right? So, and I love that we're in a day and age where we can Google, where, years before, you had to go actually to the archives and things weren't digitized as they are now.
Right.
And so, no, I am not from North Carolina. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and just love the tennis and the sports. But when I was doing my research, I found out that he was in Durham, North Carolina, because guess why he was in Durham? Because there were certain parts that during that time, during segregation, during the time that Arthur was playing tennis, that there were only certain parts of the country that Black people could go to. And Durham, North Carolina, was one of the places that they had tournaments for little Black kids. And so if you Google this, you'll see that in the North Carolina Central Archives, there is a picture of young Arthur Ashe and that tennis club, Algonquin Tennis Club picture, and you'll see Arthur Ashe in it.
And can I find those archives at the Durham Public Library?
No, they're at North Carolina Central Library, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was actually looking for pictures, couldn't find anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna I'll send you that picture so you can
absolutely
in your article, because it's there. And I want the readers to be able to know that they can go and find it too. So if you Google Arthur Ashe and Durham, like Durham, North Carolina, I'm Googling it now, see that he was this little skinny kid, and you'll see, like, if you pull up images, it'll come up and you'll see Arthur Ashe, and you'll see that of him at the Algonquin Club.
Wow.
It's a great picture too. It's kind of hard to tell which one is him, but if you know Arthur, and you'll see he's so little. He's around, I want to say he's around 9 in that picture, but you'll see it. Yeah.
That's history. I love stuff like that. You said you love sports and history, and I literally love the exact same thing. Sports history and black history. Like
exactly.
I love it, man. I love it.
We're right on the same page.
Yeah, it stimulates me. It gets me going. It puts me in a really good mood. It's very heartfelt.
Me too. It puts me in such a good mood because I sometimes I can go down this rabbit hole, and I'm supposed to be researching, like, Black history and all the, it's Black History Month next month. Yay, right? Like, but then I always gravitate back to sports. It always takes me back to sports, which is not a bad thing. But we know that as a community, we tend to be great in a lot of different areas.
Yeah. That's a fact. We really are very versatile.
Yes.
So so far since you put the book out, it came out December 30th, correct?
Right. It actually the official debut date for the Ashe Brothers, How Arthur and Johnnie Changed Tennis Forever, was published by Capstone Publishing, and the official date was January 1st, 2023.
Perfect. Okay, so how's the feedback been? It's been almost a month.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
been tremendous. Like, I've gotten such an outpouring from librarians, from educators, from parents. Oh my gosh. And kids, they cannot wait to, like, I have a program that I'm going to put forth, this right before when the weather warms up, probably in April, in the spring,
Okay.
when the weather warms up a little bit. It's a little bit too cold now. But what I would like to do with a lot of the different tennis associations is have a reading and also get the kids out on the tennis court,
I love
because
it.
that's what we don't see a lot of. As you can see, the Australian Open is going on right now. Arthur won the Australian Open as well. He won Wimbledon, he won the US Open, and he won the Australian Open. And so what I would like to do is to carry on Arthur Ashe's legacy. And and he started the USTA in this vein, to be able to get more Black kids and kids of color playing tennis.
Wow.
And as we
Wow.
can see, I was going to say, we have a lot of young Black US American tennis players coming up, but just not as many. But let me also say this, and this is, I know Arthur is just like rooting for a young Black player, male player, because
Hmm.
we know about Serena and Venus, right?
Hmm.
And how they taken over and won all the tennis championships multiple times. But I'm going to tell you this: Arthur Ashe, this year, 2023, marks the 55th anniversary that no other Black man has won the U.S. Open tennis championship but Arthur Ashe. Shocking,
Wow.
right?
He is very,
Shocking.
when you think about it, kind of not really. I can't recall. Like I said, I'm 26. I
Mhm.
don't recall any Black men playing professional tennis.
See,
I can name one.
that's what I'm talking about. But have you been watching Tiafo? He plays, and he was at the US Open last year. If you Google this, because I'm a Googler, I'm a librarian, but we start there and then we dig a little deeper, a
Right.
lot deeper, right? But Michelle Obama was at the I want to say the quarterfinals or the semifinals for Tiafo, who was the first Black American man to make that semifinal or quarterfinal since Arthur Ashe. And that
Wow.
was in 1968. Like, that just blows my mind. Like, are we not doing enough as communities to be able to get young Black kids, young kids of color into the sport? What are we doing?
I think so. I think, if it's not football or basketball, a lot of Black people
Mhm,
aren't really focused too much on it, because those are like the forefronts of
mhm.
sports. And honestly, they're probably the cheapest for our community to get into.
And that's
So
what, yeah.
yeah,
But just like Arthur Ashe, he played on public courts. We have public courts.
a lot.
We have a lot, but I think where it gets expensive, but all sports gets expensive when
Yeah.
you get off the public courts. Serena and Venus started, playing on the public courts, but their dad and their mom were their coaches. So when you start getting elevating and start getting, wanting, more intense, elevated, training, then that's where the money,
Yeah.
comes in, and that's where we fall off.
Yeah.
Because, but I'm saying, if we're going to put that attention towards, football and basketball, why not put it in, tennis or golf or soccer or, these other sports
Yeah.
as well?
I agree. You have to
I
dare
mean,
to be
I'm willing
different.
to do whatever I can to be able to continue the Arthur Ashe, legacy, and get, Black kids out there playing tennis. That's what I want. That's my ultimate goal. Like, I want you to be, I want the kids to get their schoolwork, and I know they need that, but they also need to first be healthy and,
Hmm.
be out there running around and getting their exercise. So that's one. But also, two, if even if they're not serious about it, learn the sport and learn the history.
Hmm.
And then three, you know, take it to another level and become, the next Arthur Ashe, if necessary, or Althea Gibson. And or, Althea Gibson was the first Black woman to win the US Open
Hmm.
title. And of course, everyone knows Venus and Serena.
Right.
Hmm.
Uh, I, that was 1956.
Yes. Mhm,
Okay,
1956. Yeah,
gotcha.
1956. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So her and Arthur, she's older. Althea Gibson was older, like about 10 years older
Mhm.
than Arthur Ashe, right? So she comes out, you know, in the early 50s, late 50s, 60s, so she's amazing in her own right. Althea Gibson is,
Mhm.
but they did cross paths and they did see each other, but they never played against each other. I mean,
Gotcha.
he's a male, she's
Right.
female, but they never were on the tour or anything like that together.
Okay. Gotcha.
Hmm.
So I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And obviously a great picture book comes with great illustrations.
Hmm.
David Wilkerson. Can you
Hmm.
he illustrated the entire book, A Black
Hmm.
Man. Can you
Hmm.
talk about him and his contribution to your successful project?
Sure, sure. So part of that is a collaboration between my words and his art.
Hmm.
So that's how a picture book comes together. You have the editor and you have the illustrator, but you also have the author which is me. But what you want to do is you want to be able to mirror, you want to be able to tell the story through the pictures because a lot of kids, maybe not be able to read yet, but they can read the pictures.
Right.
So what David wanted to do was be able to take my words and to be able to tell the story through his art. And so one of my favorite, I have a few favorite spreads that David did, but one of the ones when you get the book, and I probably shouldn't even tell you this. Maybe I should just say it's the spread where Arthur, Johnnie, and his parents are all together again on the page. And that to me is probably the most special because as I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Arthur lost his mom when he was 6 years old. And Johnnie was only what, because they're 5 years different. He was only
One
two,
year,
one,
two, yeah.
one or two, yeah. And so to see them all on the same page together, I even get emotional right now, just talking about it because family means a lot, and I wanted David's art and Arthur and Johnny's story and my words to be in a book that kids could be able to pick up, read about it, know that they have that same gift inside of them to be able to help and support and love not only their own siblings but their community. And that's and this just tells a small part in Arthur and Johnny's life. But I just wanted to say that Arthur, after he wins his US Open championship, he goes off to he has a platform because now we're in the civil rights movement,
Mhm.
black pride, black power. We want equality. So Arthur always felt like he wasn't doing enough, but really in honesty he was by being the first black man to win the US Open championship. He had a platform then. So then he goes off and he, fights against apartheid in South Africa. Then he is, then he acquires the AIDS um, disease, which ultimately he dies from, but he becomes an AIDS activist. So that activism within him is within all of us, right? We all have a light within us to share, to be able to start where we are, do what we can, and give that to our communities. And I'm just so happy that now we have a book, a children's book for young readers to be able to become inspired by that, to be able to know that they too see someone that looks like them and maybe even has a sibling that they can, have at home as well, but that they can help others
Mhm.
and be the catalyst to not, not just for themselves, but for others as well.
I love that. Wow.
Mhm.
I love that. Well, I appreciate you, Miss Judy Allen Dodson. You said a lot, you dropped a lot of gems on me today. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate your time. It's been really great. It's been really
Yeah,
great. And like I
yeah,
said, I love the book. I've read it 5, maybe 6 times already. And I
yes,
love it. I wish I
yeah.
had kids so I could read it to them.
I
Like
know. Yeah, I know. I do want to say that, you can visit me online on my website at judyallendodson.com and on all the social media platforms. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And also go and get the book. You will be pleasantly surprised that with the knowledge, the gems, like you said, are dropped in this book, and they're just so um I don't know, it's just it's for everybody. It's not just for young readers, but it's for everybody. So I am available for school visits, for visits to tennis associations, to be able to help wherever I can, to be able to get the word out about Arthur and Johnnie, but also about the sport of tennis. It's amazing.
absolutely.
And I play tennis as well. Do you?
I don't, but I do want to get into it. I do
Okay.
want to get into it. I want to buy a racket and a ball and, go to the tennis court down the street and,
Yeah.
try to, figure out the game. But I
Yeah.
like watching it. I like watching it. It's a fun sport to watch.
It is. It is.
Going back and forth is, I love it. But
I'll
playing,
meet you on the courts. I'll meet you on the courts.
ooh, that's some conditioning right there. I'm gonna have you got to give me a little bit.
Okay, I'm gonna give you to April. You start working out,
I
and
like
then I'm
that.
I'm a,
I,
I'm what's this? So we're going into February, March, April. Ooh, okay. And I don't want it to get too hot for you because I don't want you out there passing out. But
well,
April, we can
yeah,
go out there and
okay,
hit some balls. We can go
okay.
out and hit some balls.
That's perfect. I love that. I love that. But like I
I'll
said, thank.
challenge you.
Okay, look, I love a challenge. I love it. I love it. But thank you. I really,
You're
really,
welcome.
really appreciate you.